You are not confused because life gave you no direction. You are restless because one direction keeps returning, and every time it rises, you bury it under reasons, timing, responsibilities, and the quiet little sentence, "Not yet." You call it uncertainty, but I know the difference between not knowing and not wanting to admit what knowing would cost. I have lived inside that difference. I have smiled in conversations while something in me kept pulling away. I have said, "I just need a sign," while ignoring the signs that already made my chest tighten, my sleep thinner, my mornings heavier, and my patience disappear over things that were never the real problem. You are not lost looking for a new path. You are avoiding the one your inner voice already pointed toward. I know the kind of night where nothing dramatic happens, but you still cannot rest. You unlock your phone without purpose, scroll through things you do not care about, check messages that did not change, and stare at the ceiling like some invisible decision is sitting beside you. You tell yourself you are waiting for clarity, but what you are really waiting for is permission that will not disturb anyone else. So you research more, you compare options, you watch another video, you make another list, you say you are being responsible, but somewhere underneath that responsibility, you keep postponing the truth, because truth has consequences. What are you pretending not to notice? So you do not have to change anything. Not because you are weak, not because you are lazy, because admitting it would ask you to become someone your current life is not prepared to hold. And the strangest part is this. The answer probably did not arrive in a mystical moment. It may have come while you were brushing your teeth before work, with one hand on the sink and your mind already tired before the day began. It may have come in your car after you parked, when you stayed there for 3 extra minutes because going inside felt like betraying yourself again. It may have come while someone described a life you secretly wanted and your body reacted before your mind could interrupt. You felt the ache, you felt the pull, then came the explanation. I am just overwhelmed. I am being dramatic. This is not the right time. But before the explanation arrived, there was a sentence. One sentence. Simple, uncomfortable, almost too clear. Something your intuition already whispered, but you have not been brave enough to say out loud yet. So stay with me, because by the end of this, I do not want you chasing another sign like the universe is hiding from you. I want you to recognize the signal you keep stepping over. I want you to hear the difference between fear shouting for control and wisdom speaking without performance. I want you to notice the exact second your mind starts building a courtroom against what your body already understood. The hesitation has a pattern. The delay has a language. The silence has a shape. You have been calling it confusion because confusion feels safer than obedience. And deep down, you know exactly which door you keep refusing to touch. And what you are avoiding has a name. What you call being stuck may actually be your nervous system trying to sort through signals you never gave yourself time to process. I know how easy it is to shame yourself for not moving faster, for not deciding, for not becoming the person you keep seeing in quiet moments. But there is a kind of stillness that is not laziness. It is the body holding too much information at once. The conversation that felt wrong, the room that made you shrink, the opportunity that looked impressive from the outside but felt like a slow disappearance inside. You keep asking, why can't I just move? But maybe the better question is, what have I been carrying that I never stopped long enough to understand? Sometimes your life does not freeze because you lack desire. Sometimes it freezes because desire is pointing in one direction, fear is pulling in another, and your mind is exhausting itself trying to make both of them sound responsible. That is why you can be busy all day and still feel internally paused. You answer messages, pay bills, show up, perform, smile, explain, apologize, and still feel as if the real decision is waiting behind everything you do. I think of Maya, 34, a marketing manager in a company everyone told her she should be grateful for. Good salary, clean office, respectable title, the kind of stability people praise when they do not have to live inside your body. For months, she woke up before her alarm with her jaw already tight, not panicked exactly, but braced. She started delaying simple emails, not because she could not answer them, but because every message felt like another hook keeping her attached to a life she had outgrown. The first signal came when her boss mentioned a promotion, and everyone around the table smiled while something inside her went quiet. The second came when she reread an old note in her phone about wanting to build a smaller, more honest work life, and she immediately closed the app like she had seen something forbidden. The third came the night before she accepted the role. She sat on the edge of her bed in her work clothes, shoes still on, laptop open beside her, and whispered, "This is not where I am supposed to grow." Then she took the promotion anyway, because the offer looked safer than the truth. And I do not judge her for that, because I have done my own version of it. I have mistaken survival for wisdom. I have called fear strategy, because strategy sounded more adult. I have said, I am just being realistic, when what I meant was, I am terrified of disappointing people who benefit from me staying the same. That is how the pattern hides. It does not always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like a spreadsheet, a 5-year plan, a reasonable explanation, a sentence that begins with, "It would be irresponsible to." Resistance is clever when it wants to stay alive. It borrows the voice of maturity. It dresses itself as patience. It tells you to wait until you have more money, more proof, more confidence, more support, more certainty, more permission. And because some part of that sounds wise, you obey it. You confuse the instinct that protects you from danger with the discernment that guides you toward alignment. One tightens the body and demands control. The other may still scare you, but it does not insult your future. It does not require you to betray yourself in order to feel safe. That is the difference most people are never taught to notice. But before I ask you to question that resistance, I want to honor why it exists. There was probably a time when ignoring yourself helped you survive. Maybe you learned early that wanting too much made people criticize you. Maybe your honesty was punished. Maybe your sensitivity was mocked. Maybe every bold decision in your environment was treated like recklessness, so you learned to make yourself smaller and call it peace. That protection may have carried you through years when you did not have the power, language, money, or support to choose differently. So this is not about attacking the part of you that hesitates. That part was once trying to keep you safe. But a shield becomes a cage when you keep holding it after the danger has changed. Maya did not need another achievement. She needed to admit that achievement had become the disguise her fear wore in public. And maybe you do not need another plan either. Maybe you need to ask which practical reason is really a wound with better vocabulary. Because this is where the question starts to sharpen. What if the thing that protected you yesterday is the same thing imprisoning you today? The confusion you keep blaming may not be proof that you are failing. It may be the sound of an old life losing authority before the new one has language. That middle space can feel unbearable because nothing is fully gone, but nothing feels fully trustworthy yet. I know that place. You still answer to the same name, walk through the same rooms, reply to the same people, but something in you no longer bows as quickly. You start noticing where your yes sounds rehearsed. You start noticing how your body tightens before your mouth agrees. You start noticing that peace is not the same as silence, and stability is not the same as belonging. But instead of calling that transition, you call it confusion, because confusion lets you delay the responsibility of responding. It gives you a softer word for a harder truth. It lets you say, I do not know, when something in you has been saying, I cannot keep living against myself like this. Here is where the break happens. Wisdom and avoidance can both tell you to wait, but they do not leave the same imprint. Real wisdom can pause without making you smaller. It can say, not this, not now, and still leave you with your dignity intact. Avoidance disguised as maturity feels different. It does not simply ask you to slow down. It quietly trains you to distrust every inner signal that threatens your current structure. It says, do not be impulsive. When you were not being impulsive, you were being honest. It says, think practically. When you have already thought practically for years and only used logic to decorate your self-abandonment. It says, be grateful, as if gratitude requires you to stay where your spirit is shrinking. And this is the hidden pattern. You are not ignoring signals because they are unclear. You are ignoring them because following them might prove that the version of you who tolerated this for so long was not peaceful, only obedient to survival. And I want to go one layer deeper, because this pattern did not appear from nowhere. Somewhere, you learned that trusting your intuition was irresponsible, dramatic, selfish, naive, dangerous, or too much. Maybe someone praised you most when you were easy to manage. Maybe you were loved more when you did not ask for what disturbed the room. Maybe you watched people with power call their control concern, and you learned to confuse obedience with safety. So now, when your inner knowing speaks, your mind does not simply listen. It interrogates. It asks for evidence. It asks who will approve. It asks what could go wrong. It asks how you will explain yourself to people who never needed an explanation for keeping you trapped inside their expectations. But once you see that interrogation clearly, something changes. You do not need total certainty to make an aligned decision. You need enough honesty to stop using uncertainty as a hiding place. So ask yourself, not gently enough to escape, but clearly enough to answer. What was the last signal you felt and decided to ignore? What did you fear would happen if you had followed it? Is that fear truly yours, or did it come from someone who taught you to doubt yourself? Now return to the question from the beginning, but do not let it stay pretty. Let it become specific. What are you pretending not to notice? So you do not have to change anything. Not as a philosophical question, as a mirror. What message do you keep rereading because you already know it changes something? What conversation are you delaying because your answer will reveal that you have already left internally? What room do you keep entering with a tightened throat, then calling that tension professionalism? What dream do you keep treating like a fantasy because naming it would expose the life you built around not needing it? This is not the part where everything resolves. This is the part where the disguise slips. You may not walk away today with a perfect plan, but you can walk away with one clean recognition. The signal was never absent. You were trained to argue with it. And once you stop arguing, even for a moment, the path does not become effortless, but it does become harder to betray. So let the intensity come down for a moment, not because the truth became smaller, but because the body can only receive so much before it starts defending itself again. Take the pressure off the idea that one recognition has to become one immediate revolution. Sometimes the first honest movement is not quitting, leaving, confessing, moving, starting over, or explaining everything to everyone. Sometimes the first honest movement is much quieter. You stop pretending the tension is random. You stop calling the ache a mood. You stop treating the signal like an inconvenience. You let yourself admit, without rushing to solve it, something in me knows. And for some of us, that admission alone is the first real breath we have taken in years. When you stop resisting, decisions do not always become easy. I need to say that carefully, because easy is not the promise. Lighter is the promise. Cleaner is the promise. There is still fear sometimes. There are still logistics, conversations, money, grief, timing, and people who will not understand the version of you that no longer asks for approval before existing. But the weight changes. Before, you were carrying the decision and the lie. After, you may still carry the decision, but you stop carrying the performance. You can look at the truth without immediately turning it into a courtroom. You can say, "This scares me," without using that fear as proof that the path is wrong. Mature fear can ask you to prepare. Real wisdom can ask you to pause. But neither of them should require you to keep abandoning the part of yourself that is trying to come back online. I think of the tide when it pulls away from the shore. If you only see the retreat, you might think the ocean is leaving. But the ocean is not gone. It is gathering itself according to a rhythm deeper than the surface. That is what inner realignment can feel like. You may look less productive for a season, less available, less eager to explain, less interested in forcing yourself into rooms that require you to become numb just to belong. From the outside, someone may call it withdrawal, but inside, something is returning to its own current. The point is not that the tide comes back as a reward for being patient. The point is that not every pause is absence. Some pauses are the intelligence of rhythm. Some retreats are the body refusing to keep spending itself, where it is no longer being restored. Stopping the resistance is not giving up. It is listening. It is standing near the door you have avoided, and finally noticing your hand is already reaching for it. It is letting the next step be honest before it is impressive. And once that happens, the old explanations begin to lose their authority. "I am just being practical" stops working when you can feel the grief underneath it. "I do not know what I want" stops working when you remember how quickly you recognize what drains you. "Maybe later" stops working when later has become the place where your life keeps disappearing. This is the slow acceleration. First you notice the signal, then you stop insulting it, then you stop negotiating against it, then you begin to move with it. Not perfectly, not loudly, but with a kind of inner consent you cannot fake. And that is where everything starts becoming dangerous to the version of your life built on your silence. You already know. That is the part no one can hand back to you, because it was never gone. It was buried under being liked, being careful, being available, being impressive, being the version of yourself that made other people comfortable enough to keep expecting your obedience. But under all of that, the signal kept breathing. It returned in the quiet after the conversation ended. It returned in the pause before you said yes. It returned in the heaviness after you achieved something everyone else celebrated. It returned when you laughed too quickly, changed the subject too fast, stayed too long in a room that made your body feel smaller. And now, maybe for the first time, you can feel how much energy it has taken to pretend you were only searching. You were not only searching, you were negotiating with the truth, hoping it would ask less of you if you waited long enough. But truth does not become smaller because you postpone it. It becomes louder in the places where you can no longer perform peace. Maybe the sentence was never dramatic. Maybe it was not, leave everything. Maybe it was, this is no longer honest. Maybe it was, I cannot keep choosing approval over aliveness. Maybe it was, I know where I am being called, and I am tired of pretending I do not. That is why the old excuses feel thinner now. They cannot hold the same weight because you have seen what sits underneath them. You have seen the wound wearing the mask of practicality. You have seen fear using mature language. You have seen how often you asked for more signs when what you really wanted was a version of change that would not disturb the identity you were trying to outgrow. Listen, closely, slowly. The path is not begging you to become fearless. It is asking you to stop using fear as a legal argument against your own becoming. It is asking you to stop demanding a guarantee from the very life that is trying to make you honest. This is where the sentence finally arrives whole, not as punishment, not as accusation, as a door opening from the inside. And I know that lands with weight, because somewhere in you, something just stopped defending itself for a second. Stay there. Do not rush to turn this into a plan, a post, a promise, a dramatic declaration, or another private note you never act on. Let it become contact first. Let it touch the place where you abandoned yourself politely. Let it touch the version of you who learned to smile while stepping away from your own knowing. You already know, always have. Now choose. Not the entire life at once, not the perfect outcome. Choose the next honest movement. Choose the conversation you have delayed. Choose the boundary you keep rehearsing in your head. Choose the project you keep calling unrealistic because it exposes what you actually want. Choose the morning you stop waking up already apologizing for being alive. Choose to stop asking your intuition to speak louder while you keep lowering the volume. You did not lose your way. You are disobeying it. And if this touched something in you, tell me, because I want to keep building this path with you in a way that feels real, not forced. Follow me here. Stay close to the part of you that did not look away this time. And when this ends, let the final screen stay with you for a breath longer than usual. Not as a command, as a mirror. Let it hold the question you have been circling around, the one that does not flatter you but frees you. Because after all the waiting, all the explaining, all the pretending, the next chapter may not begin with certainty. It may begin with one honest admission spoken without apology. It may begin with your hand shaking and your voice still clear. It may begin with no applause, no perfect timing, no one understanding why this matters so much to you. But you do not need another sign to prove that your inner voice is real. You need one moment where you stop betraying it just to keep your current life undisturbed. And when the noise settles, when the performance falls, when no one is there to approve, interrupt, correct, or rescue you from your own knowing, ask yourself this, and do not answer too quickly. If your intuition could speak without fear, what would it say you are avoiding hearing?